You're listening to Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong, all on Georgia Radio Network.
Welcome to episode 152 of the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast. I'm Dave Roberts. With me, as always, is my podcast partner in crime, my co-host, journalist, writer, Jessica Solagi.
Hello.
How was your week being a nurse?
It was good. The dogs and I spent it in Alpharetta. My mom had knee surgery on her meniscus. So we, I know that everybody's dream recovery is with three large dogs that move around quickly and get under your feet everywhere you go. So,
and they love grandma.
Yes, you're welcome, Mom.
She knew you weren't coming alone.
Well, yes, and they have been mostly good. We had one little incident the day of surgery. They knocked over plants and ate cookies from Costco, and we're all kinds of naughty, but it's been smooth sailing since then, so.
Well, good. I guess they're like kids. When they get to grandma's house, they don't think rules apply.
Correct. Well, because she lets them know they don't, but, it's okay. How was your week?
So you're taking a poor, hobbled woman and blaming it on her.
Yes, I am.
My week was good. It was busy. And this happens with any sort of business that's not directly retail, that things pick up after Christmas. People will put off repairs, put off a lot of things that have to go on until after Christmas. And we get the first paycheck after Christmas, then we can start looking at stuff. So they will put off really needed repairs, have damage occur to their equipment just to get through Christmas, make sure their kids get, the My Little Pony or Barbie dollhouse, whatever it is, instead of making sure that everybody's warm and comfortable. Not that I'm bitter about not having income in December.
It ain't no thing.
It's fine. It's one of those things. When you've done this for several years, you plan for it. It's part of your financial plan. Like, look, from Thanksgiving to New Year's, there's not going to be a whole lot coming in. Even a lot of things that are owed to you. And honestly, even checks I get in December, a lot of times I end up holding on to because I don't want to really run to the bank because the traffic. And I end up doing it after New Year anyway. It's not that big of a deal. So,
yeah.
Getting into the show. Speaking of S shows, Trump's second impeachment. And that expert analysis you could only get from a professional journalist.
I mean, it was the biggest display of theatrics that we've seen since November.
Look, and I'm going to drop a little logic on you. Trump did not incite a riot with his speech to the rally. He didn't. Nobody heard that speech, got on the metro, went home, got gas masks, helmets, and clubs, got back on the metro, went back into D.C., and then raided the Capitol. These people showed up armed with gas. They were ready for a fight. So the whole idea of him inciting a riot is moronic, and they know it. They know it has no base in truth. In fact, the report came out last week that the tours of the Capitol were much higher leading up to the rally, and they believe it was a scouting mission. So this means that they heard the speech, got in the DeLorean, went back in time to tour the Capitol, and then appeared right back with Doc Brown, and then armed themselves and went charging into the Capitol. It doesn't make any damn sense.
No. And I know that they want to make sure that, they've said they want to make sure that Trump never holds office again and all of this. But, I just don't. I think it was such a terrible use of time and resources, and Congress just continues to send the message that they don't really care about the real issues that are facing our country. I mean, Donald Trump, at the time of the vote, was leaving office in 7 days. Obviously, it's less now, but
well, yeah. As the show drops, is tomorrow, and the Senate is not going to be in session to even hold the trial. There was no investigation. There were no hearings. They just voted to impeach.
Mm-hmm. Theatrics.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, it's theatrics. And then they're going to hold a trial for an ex-president, Presidente Emeritus.
Again, that's a terrible use of time.
Yeah. And I don't even think Biden supports this.
What makes you say that?
Well, he has an agenda that he wants to push through in the first 100 days. He's got a bunch of handouts to give, and he wants that getting done. I'm not saying his agenda is good. I'm saying he has an agenda, a goal he has for his first 100 days. And if they spend 60 of those 100 screwing around with a trial, with an impeachment trial in the Senate, it's ridiculous. And this has never been done before. While we're at it, why don't we impeach Jimmy Carter? He's kind of a turd.
I mean, if the standard is so low, we could impeach just about every president we've ever had.
Right. Look, impeachment proceedings against Nixon ended when he left office. That was it. He was gone. All right, let's move on. Because they had other things to do.
Do you think Trump will run again?
Probably. I don't want him to. And look, I even said last week, I don't really have a problem with a lot of the things he did. I do have big problems with some of the stuff he did, particularly the slide fire ban. But most of the stuff that he did, I mean, he sent his Jewish son-in-law to broker a peace deal between two Muslim nations and got it done. He's getting our troops home. I mean, there are things that he's done that I can't say were bad things. I think towards the end, especially during coronavirus, when it became a competition to see how much money we could give away, I think it was a bad political move. I think it's a bad move for the financial health of this country. I think it's a bad thing to put forth to the people that, don't worry, Uncle Sugar will take care of you. So I did not enjoy that, but it's not like Biden's going to do any less. And what Biden's proposing when he comes in is to finish out the 2,000 that Trump wanted anyway. Which, that money will help pay for a couple days fishing in Costa Rica later on in the year when I go. Because I'm privileged, I guess.
Of course. You show that every week.
Yeah, but I don't see anybody else's privileged ass in crawl spaces with me.
True.
But yeah, a lot of the stuff he did, especially in the first 3 years, you really can't throw a stone at. Outside of the slide fire ban, outside of a lot of the stuff he said is ridiculous. I mean, just it's absurd. But as the show continues, not to be outdone, my Congresswoman, Marjorie Taylor Greene, planning to file articles of impeachment against Biden.
The day he's sworn in.
What's
that about?
I don't know.
What's wrong with her?
I don't know. And I've said before, I've met her. And she was perfectly reasonable when I met her. But I think she's trying to take this Trump model. And it's not going to help. She's in such a deep red district that I don't know that's going to cost her. And I don't know who has the money to challenge her in a primary. Because she'll have RNC money. Because I don't know. It depends on how many people in the RNC she pisses off before literally next year.
It should cost her, though, because she's like, what has he done? Why is she doing this?
Right. You can point to a lot of the Hunter Biden stuff. All the stuff that is criminal all happened before. Literally, I mean, look, we're as it drops, 24 hours away from him becoming president. So you can't point to anything that he's going to do at the inauguration or the ball that follows or his family walking into the residence at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. You can't, I don't think he's going to break any laws in that. I think it takes 10 hours. And during that 10 hours, everything that was Trump's will be boxed up and moved out. When Trump leaves the White House, everything will still look the way it does today. And when Biden walks in, everything down to the pictures on his nightstand will be in place before he walks into the residence. It is an amazing operation. But I can't see any law that he's going to break, any high crime or misdemeanor he's going to commit on that day. Why not keep that in the back pocket? Why do you want to sound exactly like the Democrats did when Trump was inaugurated? They couldn't wait to impeach him.
Again, not a good use of anybody's time.
And I don't like Joe Biden, but what's her end game here? Okay, say it gets through, which is not, but say in 2 years it gets through, and the Republicans take over the House, which happens almost all the time with a president, that people tend to vote for a divided government. So that's where you'll see the House probably swing back over to the Republican side, maybe the Senate as well. Hopefully, we'll get rid of Raphael Warnock. So you'll see a hostile Congress to the executive, which is what we want. As Matt Lowe put it, sweet, sweet gridlock. Mm-hmm. So even if those articles get pushed through, even if they have a trial in the Senate and they decide, you know what, Biden's got to go, what do we get? Kamala Harris. You think Joe Biden is liberal?
Well, it's awfully bold of Marjorie Taylor Greene to think as well that people are going to follow her lead. I mean, she's new.
She's been there 5 friggin' minutes.
Right.
Follow my lead. How about you shut up, learn your job a little bit. Try to stay off the news just a little bit. I know you need to make enough splash that people know you're doing something, but not so much that people are tired of hearing your damn name. And Tom Graves, and much to his credit on this, is you didn't see Tom on the news constantly. You didn't see Tom on Twitter constantly. I don't say everything Tom did was great, but at least he maintained a little bit of dignity in class. She's just a friggin' clown.
That she is.
So I guess if I need anything from Congress, I'm not going to be sending a letter to Marjorie.
I'm betting not.
So this is a good time to say these are our opinions and not those of anyone not offering commentary on this very show. 2 trailer park girls go around the outside. Guess who's back? Back again. Shady.
Oh,
it ain't gonna be good.
Legislature's back.
They are at that. 3 state senators who supported election challenges were stripped of their chairmanships.
Yep, old Jeff Duncan. He said, these committee chairs are uniquely qualified to develop real and lasting solutions aimed at building a better Georgia. The Senate will continue to prioritize diligent committee work and sound public policy, and I look forward to working closely with each one of our chairs and their committee members as we work to enact policies that both advance the lives and livelihoods of all Georgians.
Well, that's a curveball.
Huh. Yeah, well, he didn't, well, I'm not going to talk about his baseball career, but I think he obviously has the authority and the, whatever you want to call it, any way you cut it, he can do this. But I think it was super poor form. And he picked 3, and there were others. There were more than just Brandon Beach, Burt Jones, and Matt Brass. But they're the only ones that lost their chairmanships.
He's taking a page out of Ralston and Casey Cagle's playbook to be punitive. Man, I think it's short-sighted. I don't know why he wants to pick fights. And look, I don't need you to enact policies that advance my life or my livelihood. Just get the hell out of my way. Just don't do anything. Mm-hmm. Go soak up 40 days of pay and don't F anything up. Don't help. You know, it's you ever carry something and someone says, "Can I help you?" Like, just get away from it. Just don't help. I'll do it. Just don't help. Mm-hmm. It's a lot more complicated if you get involved. Just don't help. That's how I look at the legislature. Don't help. If you want to pass anything, eliminate laws. Don't pass new ones. Eliminate laws. Like, you know, the income tax. Something like that. Something that would make Georgia more competitive. Keep more money in the pockets of Georgians when they earn it. If you want to help us get rid of laws like punitive laws against possession of a plant. Get rid of laws that put otherwise non-violent individuals in jail. If you want to improve the lives of Georgians, stop passing stupid laws. Stop making more criminals. Stop putting people away for longer periods of time based on what you think the reason is that they committed a damn crime.
Not going to happen.
I know it's not going to happen.
I mean, it's just...
And when we have lawmakers who are of that mind, like Matt Gertler, they get blacklisted.
I did like, well, you know, the Senate is so much different than the House because there's only 56 of them and there are a ton of committees. And so almost everyone in leadership has at least one chairmanship where they're a lot harder to come by in the House. But, you know, Burt Jones, I can't remember if he was elected in 2011 or 2013, but it was a good while ago. And he has had a chairmanship since he was a freshman. But I really liked his response because, and of course, I mean, he could have been bloviating too, but he was the Insurance and Labor Committee chair, and his quote to CNN, of all places, was that he said, it really didn't bother me, other than it was an effort to just try and embarrass us, and that really bothers me. It was really unnecessary and pretty petty. We weren't trying to overturn an election. You have to have evidence to overturn an election, but in order to have evidence, you've got to investigate things. He added that his goal was to call out Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, a Republican who has consistently rejected Trump's claims of voter fraud. Now, I will say his statement's a little bit hypocritical when he said that Jeff Duncan was just trying to call him out and embarrass him, and that bothers him. And then he said that his goal was to call out Raffensperger. But he is right that it is petty. And you know, as much as we want to chastise people on like Lynn Wood and the ones who really just went over the deep end, I will say that our state senators, unlike some of our other elected officials and fearless leaders, did not take that like wild and crazy tinfoil hat approach. They just said, should we ask some questions? I think we should ask some questions. And he said, you know, this was over a difference of opinion, and here we are. We lost our chairmanships. So,
well, and we know there's voter fraud in every election. There was a lot with the mail-in ballots. Project Veritas went to San Antonio, and there's now a woman going to prison for quite a while for vote harvesting and vote chasing, and collecting ballots from people, looking at the way they vote, and then taking the ballot back to them and going, "You didn't mean to vote for this guy, did you? Did you? You didn't mean to vote for him, did you?" And then getting them to change their vote and giving them presents. Or buying beers at a bar. I mean, old school vote harvesting. Stuff that's happened in this country for hundreds of years with buying drinks in taverns. It's why taverns used to be closed on election day. Because candidates and their surrogates would go and get people riled up and buy them drinks. But we know this happened, and we know that the expanding of the mail-in vote, especially with the mailing everybody a vote application, probably aided in the fraud attempt, if I can even talk. Because I think this woman had like 8,000 ballots she harvested. One person. Because there's such a long time that you can request your ballot and get it in. One person has plenty of time. They have a list of everybody who requested a ballot and who they've gone to before to help them request ballots. Quote unquote, help them.
Stop helping.
Well, yeah, helping. Yeah, who are you helping, right? But we know there's voter fraud, and there should be an investigation to look at it. Look, we can't change what happened in November and December. We just can't. It's done. The Electoral College, we talked about it last week with Pence had no choice. He had to hold the vote. He is constitutionally obligated to hold that vote. We can't. It is what it is now. The only thing we can do is attempt to address it moving forward. We're not getting new machines. We just wrote a big check for what we've got. We're not getting a new system.
100 million.
Yeah. We're not getting a new system. It's just not. We're not getting a new Secretary of State. Maybe we will after this election, but we're not getting a new Secretary of State before the next election. So we have
Brad Raffensperger's political career is over. I mean,
yeah. Here's the problem for the R team. If he sneaks through the primary,
he'll be destroyed.
Yeah, he will be absolutely destroyed. The only thing we can hope is John Barrow runs again. We get somebody reasonable to run again. And I don't think John Barrow's a bad guy, and he's on all accounts. I think it was you who said how good he is on constituent services.
Yes.
That would be our only hope. A bad idea would be if we get somebody who is radical and going to absolutely push policies like mail-in voting and push the idea of you voting like you do for American Idol.
Like Stacey Abrams?
Like Stacey Abrams, yes. And obviously the Secretary of State doesn't have the authority to implement rules, to implement laws. He can only administer, or she can only administer what is in front of them. But they can, these individual election offices all have authority with the audits of how many observers they allow. And if the election went blue and you're in a blue district, you lower the number of observers. If you're in a red district and the count went blue, you increase it. So the audit stuff is a mess. The poll observers are a mess. The count observers are a mess. I'm tired of every election going to the damn courts.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
it's we're not even. I mean, that's the other thing is there's so much, all these proposals, which we're going to talk about in a couple minutes, but all these proposals from the legislature on what, how they're going to reform election law, what policies they're going to put in place. It doesn't really matter because every single one of them is going to be challenged, just like they have been challenged. I mean, they've been digging up ones from the 90s and coming back, ones that they passed as Democrats and saying, you know what, this no longer works for us. Hey, judge, will you issue an order? And then they do. And then we've got things on the books that say one thing and orders that override what's on the books. And then you've got people just livid because they don't understand. It's a nightmare.
It is. And I don't want a judge deciding how this stuff goes. We've had laws in the books for, like you said, decades. When you're talking about something that was passed in the in 1995, that's 26 years ago. It was good for 26 years.
Mm-hmm. Here we are.
I've said before, I think you should go to the polls on election day unless you have a reason not to, and then you file an absentee ballot. I don't like early voting. I don't like this mass mail-in voting.
And then
it's been predictable. I mean, I've said this for years. It's predictable. This is the way it's going. And this idea of mass voter fraud, you don't need mass voter fraud. These elections are come down to sub 1%. And of course they were out harvesting for Warnock and Pajama Boy. Of course they were. Of course they're vote chasing. Of course they were. They're organized, and in their mind, the ends justify the means. So they know they're breaking laws, and they don't care. Because nobody goes to jail for it. You have to find somebody like Project Veritas who's going to put it on camera. And this stupid chick in Texas was bragging about it and saying, is it illegal? Of course it is. I know it's illegal. I know, I have to change my shirt. So I can't, you're not allowed to work for a candidate and help people with their ballots. Well, do you work for a candidate? Of course. Well, I put this shirt on so everybody thinks I'm with a nonprofit.
Yeah, the honor system isn't really proving to be too honorable.
If you can't use the honor system at West Point.
Oh, God. Where can you use it?
Right.
Jail.
Yeah, because no one's ever snuck anything into a jail in some place that you should never put into your mouth from where it came out of that orifice. Yeah, so, the honor system. So there have to be checks and balances. And I don't know. I don't want some giant bureaucracy, another law enforcement agency that convenes every 2 years just to chase people down and find out who's ballot harvesting. But, in that story, and we can even link that story to the page if you want to, she's talking about not dumping she'll have 3,000 or 4,000 ballots, but not drop them in the same mailbox, because that would be obvious. That you grab a handful here, drop it in, you go to a different post office, and you drop them all over the city. So that's not obvious. So they don't open up a mailbox with 5,000 ballots in it. But these races are so narrow. And look, I'm not saying the Republicans don't do it too. I think it's a lot easier to do in Democrat districts because the density is much higher. So you can go on one block and hit 50 homes. Where if you're going to try to do this out in, Chattooga County, it's not going to be quite as easy. And people out in the country aren't as accepting of someone driving down their driveway, number one. Like, you knock on my door, I'm usually not happy to see. I don't care if it's a damn Girl Scout selling cookies. Get off my damn porch.
You talk to the Girl Scouts like that?
No, I usually give them $20 and tell them to leave me alone. Look, well, you can send them
off my lawn.
Yeah. You understand. I don't have kids. A knock on my door, if I'm home doing nothing, involves putting pants on. By that time, I'm already pissed. You go to the door. Well, did you want girls? No, I don't want to go Girl Scout cookies. But here's $20. Just give it to whoever you want. So I'm nice. I just had my front door open. I think I told you. I had my front door open because it was a nice day. And some kid comes banging on my door trying to get me to go vote for the Republicans in the Senate race. I'm like, man, I've already voted. That should be on your card. Get the hell out of here. Like, leave me alone. It's a beautiful day. I got the doors open. I'm trying to have a nice, relaxing Saturday, and here you are.
Oh, Dave.
It's also why I'm not a very good door knocker. I mean, I'd be a horrible politician run for office. I would hate knocking on doors. So
I've done it, so I can't be that person. I've had to be the person knocking on the door, so I'll at least listen.
Yeah, I mean, I know, but I'm the same way with telemarketers. I get fairly rude with telemarketers. I start talking lower and lower, so they turn their headsets up, and they will scream in the handset, so it hurts their ears.
Dave.
I also tell them there's a special place in hell right between lawyers and child molesters for telemarketers.
Dave.
Well, that's not as bad as I say. Is your mama proud of you? Is she proud that you do nothing but steal productivity from people who actually earn a living just to try to sell them some crap they don't need? Is your mama proud? Do you go home and or do you make her cry that you're just such a scumbag?
My God. At least they're working.
That's not working. That's theft. That's time theft. And most people, a lot of people have the privilege of not answering the phone if they don't know the number and just let it go to voicemail. I don't. I need to answer my phone because people I don't know call. In fact, I need people who don't know me to call. I mean, I'd be very broke if I only survived off the people I know. So, Senator Matt Brass of Noonan, who was removed from the chairman from the reappointment and redistricting committee, will instead serve as head of the Banking and Financial Institutions Committee. I don't know. Is that a demotion?
Yes, it is. And that's, well, especially with its reapportionment and redistricting.
Gerrymandering.
Which is coming up with the census and everything and the maps and all that fun stuff. But it's indicative that he had to be assigned to another one because that there's, like I said, there's not a lot of senators. They would have ended up having to give one to a Democrat. And they don't want to do that, of course, because, it's not about well, I'm not going to get into it, but they wouldn't have wanted to give it to a Democrat. So it was a demotion. But I will say that Matt Brass, of the three, something to note here is that Brandon Beach was huge on the Cagle team. Burt Jones was just, not far behind that. And Matt Brass was not as vocal. I think he endorsed Cagle. I can't remember, but I don't think he was the same level as the other two. So this is not. This is an excuse to do something else, which makes it worse. If you want to demote him, but at least say why.
Well, I guess the banking and financial institutions would be more powerful at the federal level because the state really can't do much about it. Banks are regulated federally. That's the F and FDIC. That's the reason they call it the Fed.
Yeah.
I mean, they can pass little laws here and there, and things like Texas has some very particular laws with equity loans, and they're a big homestead state, so they have some quirky loan laws. But as far as really affecting the financial institutions, that's not really a position to get paid off at the state level. It certainly is at the federal level. So, Kemp gave the state of the state last week. The governor announced public school teachers and many other school employees will receive a $1,000 bonus.
Ugh.
Yeah, he said, working closely with state's school superintendent Richard Woods, the state will provide additional support to school system reopening efforts, equating to a one-time supplement of $1,000 per teacher and other employees. To fund these bonuses, well, that's the end of his quote. To fund these bonuses, the state will use $240 million in federal coronavirus relief funds. $60 million of that bonus money will come from Governor Kemp's office, and about $180 million will come through the Georgia Department of Education's Withheld CARES Act funds.
$1,000, first of all, okay, teachers we talked about teachers. Teachers got a really bad rap on they always get a bad rap on the show, but especially during COVID when they were complaining and everything, and their checks came like clockwork. So, and I have a real problem with a lot of the superintendents and administrators across school districts after this news came out, commenting to the media saying they've had to miss work because they had to be quarantined, and so this will benefit them. Well, you can't, there's all kinds of lawsuits and OSHA and orders from the federal government saying you can't fire people for having to quarantine, especially if they might have contracted it at work and all this stuff. So, teachers and public school employees aren't suffering because of the quarantine. They're not suffering financially because of the quarantine parameters and regulations. And also, there are tons of school districts that are virtual.
Well, look, teaching virtual school sucks. It's very difficult, particularly for little guys. Very difficult. And I'm talking about the younger kids, not small teachers. Because it's hard to get buy-in from them. You have kids that pop on, drop off. You have kids that have connection issues. I mean, they're teaching school from a computer screen is difficult, and especially if you don't get parental buy-in. If parents are just kind of leaving their kids to their own devices, like, okay, honey, well, it's time to go upstairs and go to school, and the parent is not involved and checking in to make sure the kids are doing whatever is assigned and all that stuff, it makes it difficult on the teachers. I get it. One, is the $1,000 enough to make up for your job sucking? I would say not. I mean,
a job you chose?
A job that you chose. But if you were disenchanted with education, if you're just over it, that you're tired of the rules changing every week, which, get over it. I mean, that's just the nature of a lot of business too. But you're tired of the rules changing every week. You don't know what to do with your kids because you don't know if you're going into the office on Monday or you're not, and you're waiting for an email from the superintendent Sunday night. And this happens a lot. Is they'll shoot something out, and a lot of teachers are parents too. They're scrambling also, or they get a teacher who has a kid in one district that their kids have to go virtual on Monday, but my school's not. Even within the same district, you're having these 5 schools are going virtual. The other schools are not. So you got a kid that's in the other school, that's in one school that's going virtual, and you've got to be. So I understand the frustration, but $1,000, one, is not enough to make a difference. And two, when you multiply it by the numbers of employees that are in these schools, it makes a huge difference on the federal and state budgets.
What about the troopers? What about the people who work for all the state agencies? Why teachers?
Yeah, what about the guy that mops the floor in the jails?
They don't care about him.
Right. Yeah, troopers, jail employees. They're stuck in a confined in a recirculated air environment, a confined space with dirty people that come off the street every day. Prison guards, and which is totally, at least with prison, they're going to be there for a while. You can isolate them for a couple weeks and all that as they're coming in. It's not
working, though. We've got a huge problem with COVID. I mean, it's coronavirus relief funds, and we have a huge problem with COVID in our jails and prisons, and they can't get it under control, and people are dying, and it's costing taxpayers a fortune because we have to care for them because they're in our custody, and nobody gives a rip because they're supposed criminals.
Right. Especially jail. Most county jails aren't full of necessarily criminals. A lot of times they're being held for pretrial. Or somebody who got popped for whatever, justifiably accused or otherwise, that have to spend 24 hours until they get bailed out. And during that 24 hours, they're exposed. So yeah, so we've got jail employees. We've got people who are temporarily incarcerated that are being exposed. But it goes down to the checkout people at Publix and Target and Kroger. They're exposed to thousands of people a day. And you think the checkout person is handling everything that you handled in your cart, including everything that somebody else handled, took off the shelf to read the tag on the back of that box of Cheerios, and then put it back. So we have all this exposure for every employee, unless you work tech support from your house. If you're client facing, you're constantly exposed to people that are possibly have it. Teachers aren't special in that regard. Particularly primary school, where, the elementary school folks that have the same 30 kids every day. And even the high school and middle schools have reduced amount of changing of classes. I don't know how that works for the education of the children. But for older kids, they also have a lot of schools districts have a hybrid program where you show up for, like my niece does this because she's in FFA and they're raising a hog for the county fair, which she's really happy about. but they have a hybrid program where if you need to go to algebra class because you need the help in algebra, you go to algebra, and you can handle history from home. You can go home and handle history. I don't know that reduces as much of the exposure, but they're trying what they can. But and I know I bang on teachers a good bit. It's because they just all the time. And it's not just coronavirus.
And it's expected that they give something in order for them to award their vote come the gubernatorial election. Every single time. They want something in exchange for their vote.
And what will be whoever runs against Kemp or whoever runs against the Republican nominee going to say? Well, I would have made it 2,000. 1,000 isn't enough. With everything that you put into your classroom, we should be giving you 3,000. But Kemp doesn't care. He tried to buy you off with a measly $1,000. It doesn't matter. No, the bribery doesn't work because the next person come in going, well, I would have given you more. Hell, it didn't work for Trump. Well, here's your $600, but I really want to give you 2,000. It doesn't work. It's not going to change, and $1,000 is not going to change anybody's life. And for most people, it's not even a mortgage payment. The only thing it really impacts is not individual lives. It impacts our damn debt. So anyway, as rolling along, let's get to pre-filed legislation.
Well, and this is something that just kept getting pushed back because we were talking about other things and we couldn't really anticipate the national event. So this was on previous,
shows
outlines, right? Yeah, I think for at least 2 weeks before this one. But this is just like Sandra Scott. She's a Democrat, and I just wanted to note that she thought that some of these bills were so important that we should go ahead and file them before the legislature even convenes. So that's why it's just denoted as pre-filed. But
I think the what you have written here, Old Faithful State Rep Sandra Scott has a bill to allow families of people who are killed in officer-involved shootings to take action against the county coroner if they mischaracterize the cause of death. You would think after 2 years or 3 years of doing this, I could talk.
Sandra. She's the one that did the smoking in cars with kids bill. She wanted to make it a crime to smoke in the car with your kids. She's all over the map. She's done feminine product education mandates. So this one is just par for the course. I can't wait for the coroners to rise up against this one. I mean, we've talked about officer-involved shootings. Whether it's justified or not, it's listed as a homicide because somebody else is responsible for the death of whoever died. That's what a homicide is. It doesn't mean there's a crime. It just means it happened.
Right. And a coroner is not an ME.
No, and a coroner should not be the person who is determining anything other than this was self-inflicted or this came from somebody else. Like they should not be characterizing death reports or in like.
And even that comes from a medical examiner. A coroner takes a body and ships it off to the GBI. Right. If it hits a certain criteria, you die out of nowhere and you're in your mid-40s. You're not known to have cancer, not known to have heart disease. They go ahead and send the body off to the GBI lab. GBI comes back and says what caused it, specifically what caused it. And then at that point they go, okay, well, it was most likely caused by somebody else. Or the GBI lab comes back and says, consistent with self-inflicted gunshot wound. There's a gun laying at the floor, is point blank to the temple. His fingerprints are on it. Okay, it's self-inflicted. That's it. It's not up to the coroner to decide anything other than it was homicide, natural causes, suicide, accident. That's it. So I don't even know what this is referring to. I don't know what this solves. This is just, I mean, she's a bit of a Karen, which I really do feel sorry for somebody named Karen. She's a bit of a Karen, but this is more pandering. This is so she can go back to her district and go, look what I'm doing for you. I'm making sure if the police kill your baby, that you can go after the coroner if they say that it was justified shooting. That's not up to the coroner. The good shoot or bad shoot comes out of an investigation. And ultimately, the decision to charge is up to the DA.
That's hilarious. An investigation. I mean, we just arrest people now and then, do an investigation, but
right,
whatever.
It used to be you would go on administrative leave. They investigate it. They look at it. Good shoot, bad shoot. It's not that simple. Look, it's life altering to take somebody's life. No, I don't know any police officer that wakes up in the morning and says, I can't wait to shoot somebody. If they do, they're in the wrong profession. Most of these guys, if it comes down to it, even the video we saw from the Wendy's, that guy was visibly shaken and upset. He didn't want to kill anybody.
He also could have shot him sooner.
Right. He was really upset. I mean, it's life altering to him. And I understand it was life ending to somebody else, but it's life altering. It's a horrible thing to have to take a life. So, but we're getting off. I'm sorry, I get off on a hog trail. We don't have a whole lot of time. But this is just stupid. She's stupid. She
just wants to say she did something, though.
Right. Look what I'm doing for you.
And for God's sakes, I mean, it's already ridiculous that our coroners are partisan and have to declare that they're Republican or Democrat. Like, don't drag them into something that is so over the top, partisan and political already. I mean, give them a break.
Well, there are a lot of things that shouldn't be partisan. Local elections should not be partisan.
Well, I agree, but
it's money. If you are tied into a party, you get party money once you become the nominee. It is 100% tied into money. And look, I've said before, and I'm sorry for any coroners that are listening, but coroners are the punchlines to medical examiners' jokes. And before you get upset, I was standing in a medical examiner's house when he made the joke. Because the coroner has to have a high school diploma and not be squeamish around bodies. That's it. There's no, to be a medical examiner, you've got to go to medical school. So if you want coroners to be medical examiners, I guess you better open up your checkbooks and make sure every county has an ME, which counties can't afford. Because a medical doctor is going to want to make more money than a coroner does.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. I guess it depends on how much money they take from the police union to make sure that all shoots are considered suicide by cop, right?
Lord.
Republican lawmakers plan to introduce legislation that would eliminate signature matching when verifying absentee ballots, saying it's an unreliable way of ensuring that ballots go to the voters who requested them. They want to replace signatures with photo ID or identification number.
Yeah, this is on the heels of Kemp saying that he would support voters having to return a copy of their ID with their absentee ballot. Of course, that was immediately met with pushback from Democrats who say, what if they don't have a copy machine?
Then I guess
Guess they'll have to go vote in person.
Or go to the library. Okay, for people who don't know, libraries are archaic buildings that hold books. And they hold about a quarter of the information that you have in your iPhone. But you go to the library, you go to Kinko's, you know what? Make it if they go to the DMV, they'll do a free photocopy of it, a free black and white copy of it. Something. I don't know. I don't think this is going to stop voter fraud. It's not going to stop vote harvesting. In fact, I think it'll encourage vote harvesting because someone will roll around with a copy machine plugged into their car and go, I'll help you right here. And they'll scan it right there and print out a copy and hand it to them and go, all right, fill in this, and this. All right, hand it to me. I will supply the stamp. I'll put it in the mail for you. It's not going to stop voter fraud. Doing away with no fault or no reason absentee ballots is about the only way you can get around a lot of that. If people have to put in an effort to request a ballot, because you don't get just a ballot request in the mail, and come up with an excuse. I'm infirm. I'm out of the country. I'm deployed. My home is in Georgia, but I serve in the Army and I'm in Washington State. Something like, you need to give me a reason. And if you really want to clamp down on a lot of that voter fraud, do that. And then wait for Stacey Abrams to waddle into court with her fair fight and sue the state for doing what like 30 other states do. You have to have an excuse to vote by mail. State Rep Ron Stevens from Savannah, Republican, is sponsoring Georgia's bill that would allow online sports gambling in the state.
I can't stand Ron Stevens. I mean, he's got the backbone of an octopus.
So he's flexible.
Obsessed with gambling and casinos. He's obsessed.
I don't have a problem with online sports betting.
I don't either, but I just like with casinos, I have a problem with what the state plans to jockey into a state-run racket.
Well, I would not want a state-run racket. Now, the state-run racket is the lottery. Lottery takes money from people who can't afford it and gives money to middle and upper middle class kids to go to school. It does it very poorly because it's always broke. The lottery was more fair when the mafia ran numbers. But I don't have a problem with if the bill was clean and just removed the prohibition, because right now if you try to go into sportsbet.com or any of these other websites, they ping your IP address, and of course you can get a VPN or whatever and change that, and they'll say, okay, you're in Georgia, you can't gamble in Georgia, so you can't go and place $20 against the Falcons, which would have paid off handsomely this year. So the online sports betting, I don't have a problem with people doing it. I don't have a problem with people going to casinos. I've been known to go to a casino once or twice. I don't really want one here, but I don't think it's the government's role to get in the way of it.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't seen the bill yet. As of recording, we had not seen the bill, and it's just always some nonsense. Like no one benefits more than the state, and that's where my opposition comes. And also because, I mean, I just have a hard time believing that at this point Ron Stevens has pushed these types of things for so long, and there's nothing in it for him.
Well, look, he added that it won't require a constitutional amendment because he plans to run it through Georgia Lottery, generating money to fund Hope Scholarship and pre-K programs. Okay, are you kidding me? If you just remove the prohibition and let grown-ups be grown-ups, but no, they want their cut. So it won't. If it's run through the lottery, it won't be fair. Like if okay, I don't know how many people are familiar with sports betting. There's a line. There are people who handicap bets, and they handicap in such a way that the casino has a very slight edge, and they do their best to. So that's when you see over-unders that are like 10.5 points, things like that. That way it can't be a tie. And usually the numbers are really, really good. So the spread is going to be this week, whatever is coming up for playoff games. The spread will be 7.5 points or something like that. So, that's what they do. If the state gets involved, you're gonna buy. Say you bet $100, instead of getting $200 back, because the casino only needs to make money on the spread. You'll get $180 back, and $20 will go to Hope. Well, I'm not going to do that. That's stupid gambling. I'm already giving a slight edge to the house on the points. But why in the hell would I take back? Would I bet 100 to get 180 back? That's stupid. No gambler does. No gambler with any sort of sense of how things work. They'll just continue to use bookies. Because oddly enough, the bookies that come after you and break your legs are a lot more fair on what they do than the state will be. Jesus H. Christ, these people. Rumored legislation. David Ralston chatter on making the Secretary of State position appointed by the legislature.
Have we talked about this yet?
I don't know, a little bit, but yeah, I don't know if we talked about it on the show. You and I talk about a lot of stuff before and after the show.
Yeah, I'm just not, this is a dumb idea.
Yeah, by all means, take that out of the hands of the voters. Maybe they should appoint the governor too.
Ralston would probably love to.
I know he would. We'd have Casey Cagle. And his Velcro shoes. Ralston's just such a turd. He's such a turd. He is a disheveled old fart who obviously has the money he can afford to buy a suit that damn fits. He's a bitter, angry old man. He's a turd. And everybody up there knows it, and everybody's afraid of him.
And then?
And you know what? And the turd analogy is pretty good because you can't touch him without getting some on you.
Mm.
In fact, if I ever get to meet him, I'll take a hanky out of my pocket, put it around my hand, and say, I just don't want to get any on me. He's just a piece of trash. This is the same guy that doesn't go to court and keeps people, accused child molesters out of court for decades, or at least a decade, until the victim is of age and says, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to move on with my life. We're not talking about ha-ha crimes like he's keeping somebody out of court until the evidence goes away because they got accused of rolling with a joint in their ashtray. We're talking about real crimes.
Mm-hmm.
He's just garbage. And everybody up there knows it, and they all protect him because they're all afraid of him. So anyway, so we don't go too long. Jessica, do you have any closing thoughts?
I just have a new word this week. It's umbrageous, and it's great for the legislature because it means a person who is apt to take offense. And so all of our lawmakers are umbrageous about anybody opposing their idea because they take it all personally. And so don't be umbrageous. Don't be like our lawmakers. Understand that policy is different than politicians. And you also realize that your rep is a different entity from the person that you know. Some of them are. Well, some of them don't know how to separate it, but most of them are. Yeah. I mean, look, you can have a policy that I don't agree with, and I'm still your friend. You could vote for Joe Biden. I'm still your friend. It doesn't. We have to be able to separate that kind of stuff and understand that we can disagree on something. And I can overall agree with most of the things you do and not like a couple things without losing my mind. Mm-hmm. And our lawmakers need to have the same thing where, hey, we agree on 90%. You don't like this one? Well, this happened a lot with Gravely and the medical marijuana stuff. Is people who loved him went after him over this, going, you're going to make this into a pot state. Like, no, this is medicine. And I know Gravely went through that. People had a hard time separating Micah, who we all love, from that one policy that they don't agree with. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. As this show drops, do not go to the bank. If you do, you'll have an empty parking lot. Don't try to get your license renewed today. It's not going to happen. They're not there. It is important to remember that one of the injustices that Martin Luther King fought against was, and I think it was 1956, he was denied a concealed weapons permit in Alabama because of the color of his skin. Martin Luther King was a gun-toting Republican, and it was Democrats in Alabama that attempted to keep a gun out of his hand because they were afraid of a black man carrying a gun. So I saw something on, I think, Channel 2's Facebook page where someone said, he would be so proud of the state turning blue. I'm like, no, he wouldn't. No, he wouldn't. He was very much because this was after his home was bombed. He wanted to be able to protect himself and his family. And he was denied that right. It's one of the injustices that he fought against, to give equality to all people, the right to defend themselves and arm themselves as prescribed in the Constitution. So if you like what you heard, if you don't like what you heard, share us on Facebook,
If we've made you angry, share us with your friends so you're not angry alone. So for Jessica Szilagyi, for Eric Cumby, our editor, I'm Dave Roberts. Have a great week.